Hello, today we are going to be solving equations with distributing. So make sure you take notes as we go. Okay, so I want you to write down this definition, the definition of distributing. So the distributive property tells us we multiply a single term to two or more terms inside of parentheses. Okay, so anytime we're solving equations and you see parentheses, you need to think distribute or multiply. Okay, so distribute is just another word for multiply, but we need to multiply everything inside the parentheses by everything on the outside of the parentheses. Remember, you can pause the video if you need more time to write. Okay, so we're going to go through some examples of just the distributive property and what that looks like, and then we're going to look at actually solving equations with the distributive property. So this first one is just what the distributive property looks like. So anytime you see something like this where you have a number or a term on the outside of parentheses with no plus or minus in between, see how there's nothing in between right here? All right. Then you're going to distribute. And what that means is we're going to multiply this 4 times the 8, and we're going to multiply this 4 times the negative 2a. Okay, so since that's a minus 2a, it's a negative 2a. So 4 times 8 gives us 32. And then 4 times negative 2a gives us negative 8a. And that's how we distribute. Okay. So this one, we have a number outside of parentheses, so we're going to distribute, and then we also have a minus 6. So let's see what this looks like. So we're going to distribute the negative 4 to the 7n and the negative 4 to the 10. Negative 4 times 7n is negative 28n, and negative 4 times 10 is negative 40. Now, I do not distribute to that negative 6 because it's not inside the parentheses. So I'm just going to bring that negative 6 down just how it is. And then once I do that, I'm going to combine my like terms just like you did in your last section. So we have negative 28n, and then negative 40 minus 6 is negative 46. Okay, so you only distribute to terms inside the parentheses. Okay, now this one we have a term on the outside of the parentheses, and then we actually have two terms on the outside of the parentheses. We always want to distribute the one right next to the parentheses. So this 7 is just going to come down, and then we're going to distribute a negative 10, because remember a minus is like a negative, to the 3 and the negative 4n. So negative 10 times 3 is going to be negative 30. And then negative 10 times negative 4n is a positive 40n. And then we combine our like terms. So 7 minus 30 would be negative 23. And then we bring down our 40n. Okay, so let's actually solve with the distributive property. So here we go. We're going to distribute the number on the outside of the parentheses. So we're just going to bring down this negative 5k, and we're going to distribute a negative 5 to these two. So negative 5 times 3k would be negative 15k, and negative 5 times negative 2 is a positive 10, and then we'll bring our equals 110. Okay, now this should look very similar to your last standard. So we're just going to combine like terms and solve. So we have negative 5k, negative 15k. Negative 5 minus 15 will give us negative 20k plus 10 equals 110. We will subtract 10 from both sides. So negative 20k equals 100. And then we divide by negative 20 on both sides. So we're going to get k is equal to a negative, don't forget those negatives, okay? So we have a negative 20, so we got to bring that down and divide by negative, so we'll get negative 5. Okay. So again, we have parentheses. We're going to distribute. So we just bring down our 24 plus 2n equals, we distribute this 3. So 3 times n, remember this is like a 1. So 3 times 1 would just be 3n. And then 3 times 6 is 18. Alright, so now we just solve, just like your last standard. So we're going to subtract 3n from both sides, because remember we always look at our variables first. So we have 24 minus 2 minus 3 would be a negative 1n equals 18. Then we're going to subtract 24 from both sides. I'm going to go over here. Negative 1n is going to equal 18 minus 24, negative 6. Remember that negative needs to come over. Alright, and then we want to divide by negative 1 on both sides. So n is going to be equal to positive 6. Alright, now this one we have 2 sets of parentheses, and all we have to do is distribute twice. So we're going to distribute this negative 4 to these guys, and we're going to distribute the 2 to these guys. Alright, so negative 4 times 1 would give us negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 1v would be a positive 4v. Bring down your equal sign. 2 times 1v would be 2v. 2 times negative 4 would be negative 8. And then we'll just bring down that positive 6. Alright, now we want to combine like terms on the same side, so we have negative 8 and 6, which is going to give us negative 2. Then we'll bring everything else down. Now we combine like terms on opposite sides, so we're going to subtract 2v from both sides. Negative 4 plus 2v equals negative 2. Then we're going to bring our constants over, add 4 to both sides. So 2v equals 2. Divide by 2 on both sides, so v equals 1. So really, the only new step you're seeing is this distributive property, and then the rest of this is all standards that you've done before. Alright, last one. Now, this looks a little funny. There's not a number on the outside, but there is a sign on the outside. And if we think about this sign, this is a negative. Okay? And just like with a variable, when we don't have a number in front of the variable, we write a 1. That's going to be the same thing here. So anytime you just have a negative, it's like a negative 1 that we're going to distribute to everything inside the parentheses. Okay, so negative 1 times negative 1r would be negative 1r. And then negative 1 times positive 4 would be a negative 4 equals 8. And now we just solve. So we're going to add 4 to both sides. So we have negative 1r equals 12. Divide by negative 1 on both sides. So r equals negative 12. And that's it. Okay, so now you know all 4 steps to solving an equation. Our first step is always to distribute. Our next step is to combine like terms on the same side. Our next step is to combine like terms on opposite sides. And our last step is to isolate the variable. So we've broken these down into steps for you. You started with step 4, then you moved up to step 3, step 2, and now you've just learned step 1. So you are good to go on solving equations. Woohoo!